Welcome back to Final Fantasy. We're in the Chaos Shrine in 2,000 years in the past. And we have fought our way to the depths of the basement, where we found an obscenely large magical circle and a room at its core. In that should be the cause of the time loop and the source of the Fiend's energy. So let's go in and kill this evil guy while we make our way to the door.
I said, let's go in. Oh, and I got us up to level 50 because I just wanted to. Because originally that...
And it got Hubert 400 HP!
Yes, he finally hit 400 HP. He's
We were crossing our fingers like, man, please hit 400 on this.
I didn't really want to grind up any further, because it was like... it was either we got lucky with one level, or we got unlucky with 4 more levels. And like that last level, he gains like 50 extra HP along with it, and it's like, Hubert!
So the guide suggests you be at least level 27, and even then you will have a rough time.
Yeah, because...
So like, I know the levels scale differently.
Yeah.
But just as to give a scale of where you'd think you would be near the end of the original game.
Yeah, level 50 and the new stuff should be about as close as we need to be. So... Oh, and also, all the mages now have 9 across the board for all their spell slots, so not a real problem with casting spells in here.
We got all day.
Alright, let's see who this is. Wait a minute.
What this cause of this mess even is.
Now that I think about it, they kept saying it happened a few days ago.
Yeah, it did. When we killed all the guys.
No.
Because we killed the guys.
No, it started a few days ago when we were in the Chaos Shrine. And Princess Sarah was kidnapped by Garland at the Chaos Shrine.
It's Princess Sarah, I knew it!
So that means... Who are you again? Jack, I'm assuming? That's the only reference you're getting from this one. No, because look up there.
Oh.
Yeah, they're not even hiding it for this new one.
Hmm.
That's all that we're getting from this.
I was once the most renowned knight of Cornelia.
We're so gassed we step back.
It's like, what the crap? 2,000 years from now, you killed me. I am Garland.
Yep, this whole time, the first boss was the last boss.
Oh, you did defeat me then. But the 4 great forces saved me by sending me back through time.
I don't quite understand it, but I'm not complaining.
Once here, I sent the 4 fiends into the future, where they shall once again use the 4 great forces to send me into the past. In 2,000 years, I will remember none of this. But I will be reborn again here. So even as you die again and again, I shall return. Born again into this endless cycle that I have created. What a jerk.
And thus we fight. Chaos! That's right. Garland was Chaos this whole time. And Chaos was Garland this whole time.
Yeah, I don't get a lot of it.
I don't really either, because you have to go like, well then what started the whole thing? Because you have to start the loop somehow, but then by definition the loop is constantly going.
Even then, though, I wonder,
So it feels like there has to be an outside force that started the whole thing.
Well, not even the time loop. Like, where did Garland get this kind of power from? Did he just kind of have chaos hidden down in him all this time and he just didn't know it? Where did the fiends come from? When he got sent back in time, or the 4 fiends just kind of chilling there, going like, "Sup?"
I'm assuming, because he died, got sent back into the past by the four fiends that were in the present, and then he went back to the past, and then the four fiends were like, alright, boss, we're going back to the future, and he sent them back into the future.
Except we killed them, so they're not doing that.
Well, yeah, because the whole point is that this loop has been looping the whole time, and we keep coming up against them and dying.
So what's different? Why are we gonna not die this time?
Because we played the game, that's why.
Because I'm tired of this crap! So Chaos has 2000 HP, 100 to 200 AP, is strong against Cake, Lit, Ice, Fire, Bane, Slep, Brack, Stun, Zap, pretty much everything. And he will cast Ice 3, Cur 3, Lit 3, Slow 2, Fur 3, Fast, Nuke, and Cake. Pretty much everything.
Yeah, he ain't playing around. He actually has a bunch of different abilities too. I don't think they cover in there. They're like Cyclone and Earthquake and...
Yeah, let's see here, because this is what this guide mentions. Let's see what the official stats are. 2000 HP, 100 to 200 attack. Resists pretty much everything. And he will use Inferno, Swirl, Crack, Tornado, Slow 2, Fire 3, Lightning 3, Ice 2, Ice 3, Cure 4, Fast, and Nuke. Pretty much everything.
Yeah.
The Inferno, Swirl, Crack, and Tornado, I don't especially know.
Those are the
what
elemental
are.
ones. Crack
Okay.
is Earth, Swirl is Water, and Inferno is Fire. And
Oh yeah, Inferno says Blaze, Swirl says Tsunami, Crack says Earthquake, and Tornado says Cyclone. So that's like the...
This is the four elementals.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the word's called, though. I keep wanting to call it, like, legendary spells, but I know that's not it.
Oh. Legend. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, the legendary things.
Like, Nuke is the non-elemental version of those.
Oh, there's Tsunami.
Ow!
Yeah. A fun fact about Chaos here, like with all enemies in the original game, he has to follow his script. Like, he has a script. Not like in like the games past this, where the scripts were a lot more advanced and like.
You could actually randomize his ability and program in some rudimentary AI.
Yeah, to where it's like, you know, if you're at this threshold of HP, you move to this move set. If you're at this threshold, you do this, and if you hit like 0, you just die or you do an ability or whatever. This is just basically, these are your abilities, you follow it in order. So the God of Chaos has to follow his order, the order of his abilities in the original game.
Yeah, it has an array storing every move, and he just goes down that array. Which also means you know exactly what he's going to cast when. So, suffice to say, he does not have 2000 HP.
Obviously. And also, in this version, he just casts whatever the heck he feels like,
Yeah.
so...
He, in fact, has 20,000 HP.
Oh, yeah.
He's a big boy. Like, we can still get the 2K in, 3K in with our focused up fighters. And then probably get some higher level spells in otherwise. But that's still going to end up being 3, maybe 4K that we're doing a turn once we're buffed up. So that's still going to be...
Oh, because we're immune to everything anyway. Oh. I think that's the effect of the ribbon. Should probably just throw it on Frank.
Yeah, so it's gonna end up being somewhere between... If you're going all out, it's probably gonna be somewhere between 5 and 10 rounds that you have to put up with his crap.
Man, that hurt. The best part is that this music is new for this version, because even the original NES version, it was still just the battle music. That's why if you remember way back to Alpha Escape, that Chaos's theme in that one was just the do 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 do,
Yeah.
but like remixed and everything.
Can I get some more information on Chaos here?
Oh, you can get a lot, but a lot of it's probably going to go into Dissidia because he's very big there.
Let's see here. Garland was a knight of the Kingdom of Cornelia who gained much respect for his power and skill. He was the best of the knights, but became corrupted by power. He abducted Princess Sarah and fled to the Chaos Shrine, demanding the King of Cornelia hand control of the kingdom in exchange for her life. The Warriors of Light defeated Garland and rescued Sarah. Afterward, the warriors traveled the world to fight the four fiends of chaos that had drained the crystals of their power. The power of the crystals the fiends had drained was funneled into a dark crystal in the Chaos Shrine, opening a portal to the past.
He does not like Frank.
Well, Frank is the tank.
Tank Frank?
With the crystals restored, the Warriors of Light are told the fiends were sent from 2,000 years ago, and their master is in that time. Using the Dark Crystal, the warriors travel to the past and defeat the fiends again and find Garland alive. Garland tells the Warriors of Light that the power of the four fiends in the present sent him to the past when he was on the brink of death after his defeat. Garland then sent the four fiends in the past to the present. Doing this, Garland has created a time loop that will allow him to live forever. Garland absorbs the Fiend's power and transforms into Chaos to do battle with the heroes. Chaos is defeated and the time loop is broken, restoring the land, assuming you win. I'm guessing, and this is what makes sense to me. Garland does not inherently have the power to be Chaos. I'm willing to bet we killed the four fiends. But their energy, their like elemental strength and power didn't just go away. It flowed into Garland,
So
letting
it's-
him use that energy to become Chaos. And
Oh, Cyclone.
presumably, if he killed us, he could split that energy up, recreate the fiends, turning himself back into Garland. Presumably. Makes
Boom!
Heck yeah! Makes sense to me, and that's probably the most sense that I'll get out of this whole mess.
There comes Raiko with the assassin. You don't know how funny it was to see like a ninja just on top of Chaos's head during that thing when they had assassinate ready.
And everything is happy, and we're stuck 2,000 years in the past.
The time loop was severed at last.
Thank heavens.
The endless struggle that raged over 2,000 years had ended, and peace prevailed once more.
Can this text scroll just a smidge faster?
I don't want to hit anything. I don't want to.
Yeah, it's gonna like exit to the title screen or something if you hit confirm.
The light of the four crystals restored the forces of wind, water, earth, and fire. It was a mere trick of fate that had given rise to the chain of Garland's wrath. Oh, so screw you, it was a trick of fate.
Dang it!
But magnified by the four forces meant to guide our world, that trick of fate also gave birth to the fiends. Oh, it was a trick of fate that did it. Dang me. Monsters had run rampant as the world sank into darkness.
Sure was a video game.
But all that is now past. With the four forces flowing as they were meant, the warriors prepared to cross time and return to the world they knew. A world where Princess Sarah, Queen Jane, and even Garland himself await.
No, he doesn't. He died.
Well, see, the whole point is that we broke the cycle, so Garland's not evil anymore. So, in a sense, in defeating Chaos in the past, we saved Garland in the present.
I'm pretty sure he's still evil. He just doesn't turn into chaos.
When was
So we just kind of kick his butt and save Sarah, and everybody's happy.
When was this fateful day that sent time spiraling into a loop? None can say. It seemed the cycle into which time had fallen would last forever, But the bravery of 4 young travelers changed that. They took the forces that filled the world with darkness and used them to bathe the world in light.
Maybe Chaos, like, knew about the time loop but wasn't aware of the previous loops. And we had never shown up to fight him in the previous ones. He just kind of assumed he kicked our butt.
None will ever recall the struggle the 4 endured, for the breaking of the chain means that it never existed.
I knew it!
But within the tales of fantasy that people tell, the memory of their deeds lives on. So we're never forgotten, we're just never known.
You just said it didn't, though? None will know about this, but people will tell tales about it.
No,
what?
They will ever recall it, but they tell tales about it.
What?
Tales of dwarves and elves, of dragons and shining civilizations that reach for the heavens even as they fell. And now their return is upon us.
Kids, don't write time travel. Just don't.
With the memory of their struggle buried deep in their hearts, they will quietly watch over our world.
And, you know, maybe get somebody's cat out of a tree or something.
Remember always that the forces of the world must be used as they were intended. That the power of light must never be used for dark, and that the true crystal reside in your heart. Don't say it, don't say it, you're gonna say it, I know you're gonna say it. This is an emotional moment, I don't want you to ruin it. For you are the warrior who crossed time. You are the bringer of light. You want to go ahead and read that?
To the fans across the globe, both past and present, and to the crew who brought the originals to life, we offer our profound and heartfelt thanks.
Oh boy, and here's where I try not to break down, because, we did it. We beat Final Fantasy.
Sure was a video game. I apologize because...
I know, it's just...
No, it's that I completely appreciate how heartfelt... It's weird because I exist in a duality where I appreciate and understand how emotional and heartfelt this not only was intended to be, but how much it is. So... But I also, just due to the fact that video games have changed over time and I try to look at things more objectively, I also kind of view, especially older games, from almost like an eye behind myself, which lets me take a step back and like do dumb stuff like crack jokes and rag on something even during an emotional scene, depending on the game and how it's handled and what have you. But even though I do that, that doesn't mean I don't understand and appreciate the emotion that you can feel and will feel when actually going through that. It's weird because, like, I can feel that emotion and make a dumb joke at the exact, like, in parallel. And sometimes, I need to shut up. So,
I mean, I needed you to read that last bit because I would not have made it through reading that because I don't know what it is. Sometimes I just it gets to me when the guys go like, just thanks for playing our game.
And like as a game developer myself, I'm sure that there are corporations out there that put that in there that put that at the end half-heartedly, of just like, oh yeah, we can thank the player at the end. But also, there are a lot of developers, myself included, that honest to goodness, I just want people to play my game.
Yeah, it's just...
And if you see somewhere in there something that says thank you for playing my game, I mean that. I am eternally grateful that somebody sat down and actually spent some time making something that I wanted to do. Because I do that. I'm pouring a bit of myself out doing that. This is always something that meant a lot to me that I really wanted to put out there. And to be able to share that with people and for people to be able to accept that into themselves, that means more to me than anything else.
It's just... it kind of gets me because this was my first Final Fantasy. I played this on the NES. I got that guide from that garage sale all those years ago. I wanted to play this game wholeheartedly, and I did. And if it weren't for those Nintendo powers, if it weren't for Final Fantasy, I don't think we would have ever met. We wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah, because it was when...
That one garage sale, that one time of me going like, oh, there's a lot of Nintendo powers here. And then I grab it. And then that one magical year where Final Fantasy VII released, and we just bonded over the Nintendo power and the video games, and that was the start of our friendship. And it was all because of...
I remember seeing you sitting there reading a Nintendo Power, and I went, hey, that guy's reading Nintendo Power. Maybe I should talk to this guy.
Yeah. So it kind of just hits there, and then I think about the fact that, Square was such in dire financial straits at the time, and
it was a small team that made the original game. A very small team.
Yeah, 6-7 people just managed to crank out this thing, save the company, and started a franchise that has continued on to this day, so parallel to Dragon Quest that it's almost synonymous with JRPGs as the originator of the JRPGs franchise. It hits a whole lot differently for me.
And I think especially when the game, given what I mentioned before about just being thankful that somebody played a game that I made, I think that is an emotion that a lot of developers share. And though I'm certain in large companies with huge teams, individually, each developer still feels that. But when a very small team, I say as an exceptionally long cast rolls by, when a very small team...
Well, you're talking about the original.
Yeah. When a very small team makes a game, that want is so much more personal. And, I mean, there's only so much to say about the game. If I speak of it in a more objective retrospective sense.
So basic in comparison to what we have now, because it was just that's what they just took B&B and translated it into the JRPG that was just starting to blossom over there, and what else more do you want?
Because it was a very bare bones game. The game, honest to goodness, barely functioned. Like, it was objectively not a well-put-together game. But it had that spark of adventure in it. That even despite that, and in games at the time, it was more acceptable to have that kind of jank in them, because games were still very first being created. That jank, for all we knew, was completely normal. You didn't think twice about it. You didn't even think that it was there. You just had fun with that adventure. And this game was one of the first to bring that kind of adventure out to people. So despite any shortcomings, it was still monumentally important to so many people. And I'm surprised because I've never actually played the first Final Fantasy before. I played a little bit for one of the Friday streams. I played right up until the title screen came up, right after you beat up Garland, and that was it. And I played on an NES emulator because I told myself, if I'm gonna play this game, I'm gonna play the original.
Yeah.
But I didn't know a lot about what was going on, so I started out, and everybody in the chat's yelling at me about, like, don't pick Thief, and I'm like, look, I want to have fun, I want to see the jank, what's going on? And then I picked Thief, and they actually explained to me why it didn't function, and I was like, oh, okay, so I've just made a grievous mistake. It's not just, oh, it's a little jank, it physically doesn't function. Okay, got it. But that was all my experience with it. So seeing where Final Fantasy came from, I think it's almost shocking, looking at it, how much Final Fantasy is in this game. I always assumed the original games were way more almost Dragon Quest-like and basic. Just, you're a couple warriors. You can pick a class between a fighter or a thief or whatever, and you go out doing the very basic thing of gotta go save the world from a big, mean old knight guy taking over a kingdom. Like, I thought it was super basic. But you play this, it's got the elements in it, it's got the crystals in it, you fight chaos, there's time travel, there's a space station, like, there's an airship, the funky one that I love that's just a chubby little boat with propellers on top of it. Like, there's so much Final Fantasy in this. Like, this honestly makes me want to go look at the other early Final Fantasy games. Because I think the earliest Final Fantasy game I played was probably 4.
Yeah, because I played, I remember looking at 4, it was in one of the other Nintendo Powers when it was 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's Sakaguchi, the guy who made this whole thing possible. And,
hey, Yoshi P!
Yep. Okay, he better be on there. Yeah, I think 4 was the one that really sunk its teeth into me in terms of...
I mean Japanese 4 when I say 4.
Yeah, I know.
To be clear.
Yeah. It really sunk its teeth into me to make me a Final Fantasy fan. But I always enjoyed this one because it was just such an interesting little adventure to go through. And it's like... I know people have their problem with the pixel remasters. I know there's this whole... what about this, what about that? If you want to look into those versions, you can look into those versions. But I wanted to go through this version, because I wanted to get as close as I could to way back then, way before, when I was just a kid, playing this game because I saw it just in that one little player guide magazine and thought, like, this looks cool, I want to play this game. I want to see if I can find it and then play it.
And I will say...
And then it led
Go
to...
ahead.
Yeah, and then it just led into a lifelong friendship. It led into a love of a franchise that has had its ups and downs. A lot more ups than downs, but the downs have been very down. And then basically a freaking career out of one of the games because of Final Fantasy XIV. Because I'm gonna say this right now. If you want the best Final Fantasy game, get into 14. I don't know, if you don't, that's fine. I'm not
memes completely aside.
Yeah. I'm not pushing you into doing it, but if you want the best Final Fantasy experience, it's Final Fantasy XIV. I cannot recommend that enough. Just, do it within your means, do it within your friend group. You just have to do it yourself. But with these pixel remasters, they're almost all worth it. I know 2 is its own different thing, but 2 has been kind of worked in a way where you can manage the whole thing. If I had to suggest if I had to suggest anything, it's like, give 4 a shot. 4 is out now, and if it had come out earlier, we'd been doing 4 instead of 1. But I always wanted to do 1 anyway. But
And I like starting at the beginning of things.
Yeah.
I like seeing where something we now know of commonly came from.
But yeah, if you can get past 2's system, you can get into 2. It's not that bad. It's actually a way better told story than what you get up until 4. Because even 3 kind of goes a little basic. But if I had to choose between like the various segments of like Final Fantasy, like the NES trilogy, the SNES trilogy, the PlayStation trilogy, the PS2 trilogy, and then like this weird PS3 to PS5
Yeah, I don't know what's
trilogy.
going on now.
Yeah. I would say the most of those I would want to play is like I would want to do 1 and maybe 3. I don't want to discount 2, but 2's kind of a little more headachy in terms of like making sure you're up to snuff to everything, and it's also easier to break 2 if you know what you're doing.
I'd like to look at 2 at least.
2's fine. 2's fine. Everyone kind of bangs on it because of the leveling system, but it's fine. It takes adjustment, but it's fine. 3, because basically we could make all the Final Fantasy 14 jokes we want, and we'd be utterly justified. 4, because that is the one that made me the Final Fantasy fan. That's the one I would want to do the most. 5 and 6 I've never actually played. And I feel like people would be like,
I think I've
6
played-
you would need to do.
I think I've played 5, but I remember very little of it, but I do remember 6 fairly
Yeah.
well.
And then, like, of the PlayStation trilogy, it's like, I think we have to do 7 at some point, because 7 is the one that solidified our friendship, because I can definitely remember you working your best to try to get that black chocobo so you get Knights of the Round at the end
And
everything.
And I think a hilarious thing about 7 was, I think 7 had made the Final Fantasy series kind of peak in popularity a bit, or at
7
least
is-
ramped up. Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, myself included, when it came out, were like, "Man, this is so big and so great and so innovative. Nobody's ever made a game or told a story or anything like this." And then years later, I got around to playing 6.
And then you kind of see where
And then
7 came
and
from
I
it.
started to see 6 and go like, "Oh wow, this is more Final Fantasy than I thought." And then years after that, I decided I'm gonna play 7 again, because by this point I'd long since forgotten about the details of 7. And in playing 7 through the second time, with 6 fresher in my head, I realized 7 is just a 3d6.
Yeah, there's a lot of franchise.
Like the story is different for sure, but as far as the overall mood and temperament and setting, the feeling of the game, 7 is just a 3d6.
Yeah. After that, it's kind of like,
I feel like after 7, they started doing a lot more experimenting to see where they wanted to take the series. I feel like, honestly, even looking back at 1 now, I can feel a very clear progression from 1 to all the way up to 7. And after that, I feel like they started experimenting and feeling that they wanted to take the franchise in a new direction, and they had to figure out what that was. And it took them a little while, and I feel like they're starting to figure out where they want to take it. Admittedly, not my cup of tea per se, so
yeah.
I may just stick with being an earlier Final Fantasy fan.
I think the most I would go up to is like the PlayStation 2 trilogy, because like we can't do 11 because 11's an MMO, and that's a little
Yeah.
But it's like
I mean,
out of the
I'd be happy to do 7, I'd be happy to do 8, I would do 9 if you really wanted to do 9, but I cannot stand Zidane.
yeah, but it's like
Zidane,
10
however the crap you pronounce it.
10's fine. I like 12. 12 takes a little adjustment, but 12's fine as of itself. Outside of that, it's like the next trilogy, which is basically like I said, go play 14. Go watch somebody play 14.
Yeah,
Experience 14 as much as you can. Just enjoy the Final Fantasy for what it is. And just like, if you want, just look into the Pixel remasters. They're fun games. They stay more true to the original releases, and it's just...
Oh, and on that note, I want to say, about 14. One thing about 14 is a lot of the times you'll get an MMO or a game like that where you can imagine that it's just a game they put out there to try to make a game and try to push the franchise and make money off of it, what have you. But 14 is honest to goodness done with a monumental amount of love for the earlier Final Fantasy games. There's so many small, not just references, but jokes and in-jokes and little things, and it's done with an amazing sense of humor, but also sense of seriousness, that you can feel how much love and respect for the franchise went into 14. And I think that's why 14 has gained as much popularity as it has, and why we're as big a fan of it as we are.
At 10 years, 11 years in at this point, so...
I will also then add on the Pixel remasters. People have praised the other versions, the DS, the PSP versions, and those, they do a lot with the graphics, they do a lot with the mechanics, they do a lot with additional content, like dungeons and items and all of that. And if that's what you want, those games are there for you. The Pixel remasters do very little to the built-in systems and mechanics. They will maybe fix some bugs. They'll make Thief not
tweaks here and there,
function at all.
Essentially, yeah.
Like, they'll make Thief function like it was intended to function, but the Pixel remasters are very, very loyal to the original games. And if what you want to play is not just an elaborate retelling, something vaguely reminiscent of the original game, but if you want to experience the original game very closely to how it was intended to be experienced, please check out the Pixel remasters.
Alright, let's end this so
and
I can get that tissue.
And I think that will do it for us. Until next time, everyone, this has been Final Fantasy.
It was one hell of a journey, but Warriors of Light, remember that the crystals always shine for you.